The endless void of space stretched out before the battered freighter as it limped along on its course, its weary crew eager to reach their destination and complete their uneventful supply run. At the ship's helm, Jack Hawkins stifled a yawn, his eyes scanning the monotonous starfield for any sign of trouble. Another boring day in the life of a space trucker, he muttered under his breath, drumming his fingers impatiently on the ship's controls. Beside him, his co-pilot and oldest friend, Lena, shot him an exasperated look. "Could you at least try to act like you're doing your job?" she chided. "You're supposed to be on the lookout for anything unusual, remember?" Jack scoffed. "Nothing ever happens out here. We're light years from any action. I'm starting to think this whole exploration gig was a big mistake." Lena opened her mouth to retort, but a sudden blip on the ship's sensors cut her off. "Wait, what's that?" She leaned forward, her brow furrowed in concentration. Jack perked up, all traces of boredom vanishing as he too focused on the readings. "Looks like some kind of large object, drifting in the void. Not on any known star charts." "Then let's take a closer look," Lena said, her fingers flying across the console as she adjusted their course. "Maybe it's something worth salvaging." The freighter veered off its previous trajectory, closing in on the mysterious object. As they drew nearer, Jack's eyes widened in awe. "Sweet mother of, is that what I think it is?" Looming before them, half obscured by the endless darkness, was the massive angular form of an ancient alien starship. Its once gleaming hull was now pitted and scarred, but the imposing silhouette still exuded an undeniable sense of power and menace. "An alien warship," Lena breathed, her voice tinged with both wonder and trepidation. "I've only ever seen them in historical archives. What's it doing all the way out here?" Jack's mind raced, his initial excitement quickly giving way to a more calculating mindset. "Doesn't matter. This could be our big break, Lena. Can you imagine what we could do with a ship like that?" Lena eyed him warily. "Jack, I know that look. What are you planning?" "Just think about it," he said, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. "We find a way to get that ship operational again. We'd have the most powerful vessel in the sector. No more scraping by on supply runs. We could take the fight to the alien overlords, liberate the colonies, make a real difference." "Are you insane?" Lena exclaimed. "That ship is older than both of us combined. There's no way we can restore it, let alone use it against the aliens. We'd be torn apart the moment we tried to make a move." Jack's expression hardened. "Not if we assemble the right team. Someone with the technical know-how to get that thing flying again. And we'd need a crew willing to take the risk. People who are fed up with living under the aliens' thumb." Lena shook her head vehemently. "No way, Jack. This is way above our pay grade. We should just report the find and let the authorities handle it." "The authorities?" Jack scoffed. "You mean the alien collaborating bureaucrats? They'd either dismiss it as a lost cause or try to strip it for parts. We can't let that happen, Lena. This is our chance to make a real difference, to show the galaxy that humanity won't go down without a fight." Lena opened her mouth to argue further, but the determined glint in Jack's eyes told her it was a lost cause. Sighing in resignation, she turned her attention back to the sensors, carefully maneuvering the freighter closer to the derelict warship. "All right, hotshot, but if this goes south, I'm holding you personally responsible." Jack flashed her a triumphant grin. "Don't worry, Lena. This is going to be the start of something big. I can feel it." As the freighter drew alongside the alien vessel, Jack felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins. The sheer scale of the warship was almost overwhelming, its towering bulk dwarfing their comparatively tiny freighter. He leaned forward, his eyes drinking in every detail, already mentally cataloging the ship's potential weaknesses and vulnerabilities. "This is it, Lena," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "Our ticket to freedom. We're going to turn this thing into the most powerful weapon the galaxy has ever seen." Lena shot him an uneasy glance, but said nothing, her own curiosity and sense of adventure warring with the cautious voice of reason in the back of her mind. With a deep breath, she fired up the ship's communication array, already composing a message to the colony's leadership. Whatever happened next, she knew their lives were about to change forever. The news of the derelict alien warship's discovery spread through the human colony like wildfire, igniting a spark of hope and determination in the hearts of its citizens. Jack and Lena's report had been met with a mix of excitement and skepticism, but one individual in particular had seized upon the opportunity with unbridled enthusiasm. Emily Winters, the colony's preeminent engineer and renowned tinkerer, had wasted no time assembling a team of the brightest minds and most skilled technicians to embark on the audacious mission of restoring the ancient vessel. Driven by a lifelong fascination with alien technology and a burning desire to strike a blow against their oppressors, she saw the derelict warship as the key to unlocking humanity's true potential. "This ship represents our chance to turn the tide against the aliens once and for all," Emily declared passionately during the team's inaugural meeting. "For too long, we've been forced to live in the shadows, scraping by on their terms. But with this vessel under our control, we can change the game." Her words were met with a chorus of murmurs and nods of agreement from the assembled crew, each of them harboring their own grievances and hopes for a brighter future. "So what's the plan, boss?" asked a grizzled ex-military engineer named Hank, his weathered features set in a determined scowl. "We can't just waltz in there and start tinkering. That ship's gotta be crawling with alien defenses and traps." Emily's lips curled into a confident smile. "That's where your expertise comes in, Hank. We need to conduct a thorough survey of the vessel, map out its systems, and devise a plan to safely board and secure it." Jack and Lena's initial scans indicate the engines and life support are still functional, which means there's a good chance we can get the Prometheus up and running again. The Prometheus. A young tech specialist piped up, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "You're naming it already?" Emily nodded. "That's right, Amara. This ship is going to be the harbinger of a new era for humanity, a symbol of our resilience and ingenuity. The Prometheus, the titan who stole fire from the gods and gave it to mortals. That's exactly what we're going to do." The room erupted in a chorus of cheers and applause, the crew's enthusiasm palpable. Emily waited for the din to subside before continuing. "Now, I know this is going to be an immense challenge. We'll be facing obstacles at every turn, from securing the necessary resources to training a crew capable of handling a vessel of this size and complexity. But I believe, if we pool our talents and work together, we can transform this derelict wreck into the most formidable warship the galaxy has ever seen." She paused, sweeping her gaze across the assembled team. "So, who's with me?" The response was immediate and unwavering. One by one, the crew members stepped forward, each offering their skills and commitment to the cause. Hank, the grizzled engineer, pledged to lead the team tasked with mapping the ship's systems and devising a secure entry plan. Amara, the young tech specialist, eagerly volunteered to oversee the retrofitting of the vessel's systems with human-made components and upgrades. Even Jack and Lena, the two who had discovered the Prometheus in the first place, stepped up to coordinate the salvage and transportation efforts. For the next several weeks, the colony was a hive of frenetic activity as the restoration of the Prometheus got underway. Convoys of supply ships shuttled crucial materials and equipment to the remote location where the derelict warship had been towed, while the crew worked tirelessly to bring the ancient vessel back to life. Emily, serving as the project's driving force, was a relentless taskmaster, pushing her team to their limits and demanding perfection at every turn. She spent countless hours poring over the ship's schematics, devising innovative solutions to the myriad challenges that arose. Hank and his team made steady progress in mapping the Prometheus' systems, uncovering hidden compartments and disabling lethal traps left by the previous alien crew. As the weeks turned into months, the Prometheus began to take shape, its sleek, angular form gradually transforming from a decaying relic into a formidable combat vessel. The crew worked with a sense of urgency, driven by the knowledge that their actions could change the course of human history. Finally, the day of the grand unveiling arrived, and the colonists gathered in awe as the refurbished Prometheus was revealed in all its glory. Its once pitted hull now gleamed with a fresh coat of paint, and the ship's powerful engines hummed with renewed life. Jack and Lena stood side by side, their eyes shining with pride and disbelief. "We really did it, Lena," Jack murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "This is our ticket to freedom." Lena nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "I still can't believe it. But if anyone could pull this off, it's Emily and her crew." As the crowd erupted into thunderous applause, Emily stepped forward, her expression radiating a mixture of triumph and determination. "Citizens of our colony," she announced, her voice carrying across the gathered throng. "Today, we take the first step towards reclaiming our rightful place in the galaxy. The Prometheus is ready, and with its power, we will strike back against our alien oppressors and fight for the future we deserve." The cheers grew deafening, and Jack couldn't help but feel a surge of exhilaration coursing through his veins. The long, arduous journey of restoring the Prometheus was only the beginning. Now, the real work and the real battle was about to commence. News of the Prometheus's restoration spread quickly through the colony and beyond, igniting a sense of hope and possibility that had been all but extinguished under the oppressive rule of the alien overlords. As Emily Winters and her team put the finishing touches on the refurbished warship, word of their ambitious project reached the ears of disgruntled citizens and disillusioned former soldiers across the sector. Jack and Lena, having played a pivotal role in the ship's discovery, were tasked with the responsibility of assembling a crew capable of piloting and operating the Prometheus. They scoured the colony's spaceports and military outposts, seeking out the most skilled and experienced individuals who shared their vision of a future free from alien domination. "We need the best of the best," Jack insisted, his eyes burning with determination. "This isn't just some supply run or routine patrol mission. We're going to war against the aliens. Anyone who signs on has to be willing to put their life on the line." Lena nodded in agreement, though a trace of unease lingered in the back of her mind. "I know, but we also need people who can work together as a cohesive unit. Coordination and discipline will be just as important as raw skill." Their search led them to a diverse array of candidates, each with their own unique talents and motivations. Among them was Hank, the grizzled ex-military engineer who had overseen the Prometheus's restoration, his weathered face etched with a lifetime of hard-won experience. "Heard you two were looking for a few good souls willing to take the fight to the aliens," Hank rumbled, his piercing gaze sizing up the pair. "Well, count me in. I've got a few old scores to settle, and this ship looks like it's got the firepower to do the job." Jack grinned, clasping the older man's calloused hand in a firm handshake. "Welcome aboard, Hank. We're going to need your expertise to keep this ship running." Next, they recruited Amara, the brilliant young tech specialist who had spearheaded the Prometheus's systems upgrades. Her eyes sparkled with an infectious enthusiasm as she outlined her plans for integrating the vessel's alien technology with state-of-the-art human innovations. "Just wait until you see what I've got in store," Amara said, bouncing on the balls of her feet. "With the right modifications, this ship is going to be a technological juggernaut. The aliens won't stand a chance." Rounding out the core crew was Aisha, a former fighter pilot whose skills had earned her a reputation as one of the colony's most daring and accomplished aces. Her stance was confident, her movements fluid, and her eyes held a steely resolve that spoke volumes about her readiness for the battles to come. "I've been waiting for an opportunity like this my whole life," she declared, clasping Jack's hand firmly. "No more running, no more hiding. It's time we took the fight to the enemy." As the initial team began to take shape, word of their endeavor spread like wildfire through the colony's military ranks and beyond. Soon, a steady stream of eager recruits arrived at their doorstep, each one driven by their own personal demons and a desire for vengeance against the alien oppressors. There was Thomas, a former medic whose family had been ruthlessly executed for their acts of rebellion. Ling, a technical specialist whose skills had been exploited by the aliens for years, and Jamal, a once promising young pilot who had watched his dreams of joining the elite interstellar fleet crumble under the weight of the alien occupation. Each new arrival brought a unique set of skills and experiences to the table, and Jack and Lena worked tirelessly to mold them into a cohesive, efficient crew. Intense training regimens were put in place, with Aisha leading the charge on flight simulations and combat exercises, while Hank and Amara oversaw the crew's mastery of the Prometheus's increasingly sophisticated systems. As the weeks turned into months, the bond between the crew members grew stronger, forged in the crucible of their shared determination and the mounting tensions of the looming confrontation with the alien forces. They knew that their mission was a perilous one, fraught with danger and the ever-present risk of failure. But the prospect of finally striking a blow against their oppressors fueled their resolve, driving them to push their limits and achieve a level of coordination and teamwork that would be essential in the battles to come. Finally, as the last of the Prometheus's upgrades were completed, Emily Winters summoned the crew to the ship's command deck for a final briefing. Her expression was grave, but her voice was steady as she addressed the assembled team. "This is it, everyone. The Prometheus is ready, and so are we. The alien overlords have held dominion over our colonies for far too long, crushing our spirits and exploiting our resources. But no more. Today we take the fight to them, and we will not stop until they are driven from our worlds and our people are free." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the determined faces of the crew. "I know the risks are high, and the odds may seem daunting. But I believe in each and every one of you. Together, we will show the galaxy that the human spirit cannot be broken, that our resolve is unshakable. Are you ready to make history?" The crew's response was a resounding, unified roar of defiance, their voices echoing through the Prometheus's cavernous halls. Jack and Lena exchanged a glance, their eyes shining with a mixture of trepidation and pride. The die had been cast, and there was no turning back. The stage was set for their fateful confrontation with the alien overlords. The colony's spaceport was buzzing with excitement as the day of the Prometheus's grand unveiling arrived. Citizens from all walks of life gathered, their eyes fixed on the massive hangar doors that concealed the refurbished alien warship. Whispers and murmurs rippled through the crowd, a palpable sense of anticipation hanging in the air. Jack and Lena stood off to the side, watching the unfolding spectacle with a mixture of pride and apprehension. After months of grueling work, the moment of truth had arrived. They knew the Prometheus represented a critical turning point in the fight for human freedom, but the weight of that responsibility was heavy on their shoulders. "You ready for this, partner?" Lena asked, casting a sidelong glance at her friend. Jack took a deep breath, his gaze unwavering as he stared at the closed hangar doors. "As ready as I'll ever be. This is it, Lena. Our big shot at making a real difference." Before Lena could respond, a hush fell over the crowd as Emily Winters stepped forward, her expression radiating a mixture of triumph and determination. The colony's renowned engineer raised her hands, silencing the murmurs with a commanding presence. "Citizens of our proud colony," she began, her voice carrying across the spaceport. "For too long, we have lived under the shadow of alien oppression, our dreams and aspirations stifled by the cruel whims of our overlords. But today, we take the first step towards reclaiming our rightful place in the galaxy." Emily paused, allowing her words to sink in. "Before you stands the Prometheus, a testament to the indomitable spirit of the human race. This vessel, once a decrepit relic, has been reborn through the tireless efforts of our finest minds and the unwavering courage of our people." With a dramatic flourish, she gestured towards the hangar doors, which began to slowly part, revealing the Prometheus in all its restored glory. The crowd erupted into a thunderous roar of approval, their cheers echoing through the spaceport. Jack felt a surge of pride coursing through his veins as the sleek, angular form of the Prometheus came into view. Its once pitted hull now gleamed with a fresh coat of paint, and the ship's powerful engines hummed with renewed life. Gone were the signs of decay and neglect, replaced by a sense of power and purpose. "Behold, the symbol of our defiance," Emily proclaimed, her voice rising above the din. "The Prometheus is more than just a ship. It is a rallying cry, a promise that we will never again bow to the aliens' will. With this vessel under our command, we will strike back against our oppressors and reclaim our freedom." The crowd's cheers grew even louder, and Jack couldn't help but grin. This was the moment they had been working towards, the culmination of their efforts and the start of a new chapter in the fight for human liberation. As the ceremony drew to a close, Emily beckoned the Prometheus's crew to step forward, including Jack and Lena. The assembled team, their faces alight with a sense of purpose, stood before the crowd, ready to take on the challenges that lay ahead. "These are the individuals who have dedicated their lives to the restoration of the Prometheus," Emily announced, her gaze sweeping across the crew. "They are the best and brightest our colony has to offer, and they will be the ones leading the charge against the alien overlords." Jack felt a surge of pride as his name was called, and he stepped forward, his posture erect and his expression resolute. Beside him, Lena did the same, her eyes shining with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Jack Hawkins and Lena Fernandez, Emily continued, were the ones who first discovered the Prometheus, setting in motion the events that have led us to this moment. Without their bravery and determination, none of this would have been possible. The crowd erupted into another round of thunderous applause, and Jack couldn't help but feel a sense of humility wash over him. He had always dreamed of making a difference, of being a part of something greater than himself. Now, as he stood before the cheering masses, he knew that his actions had the power to change the course of human history. As the ceremony came to a close, the crew of the Prometheus gathered on the ship's command deck, their eyes filled with a mixture of awe and resolve. Hank, the grizzled engineer, let out a low whistle as he surveyed the vessel's updated systems and retrofitted armaments. "I'll be damned," he murmured, a rough chuckle escaping his lips. "This old girl's got some real teeth now. We're going to give the aliens one hell of a surprise." Amara, the brilliant young tech specialist, nodded enthusiastically, her fingers already dancing across the ship's controls as she familiarized herself with the new upgrades. "You got that right, Hank. With the modifications we've made, the Prometheus is more than a match for the alien fleet. We're going to show them the true power of the human spirit." Aisha, the steely-eyed fighter pilot, stepped forward, her gaze sweeping across the assembled crew. "All right, listen up, everyone," she said, her voice commanding attention. "We've come this far, but the real battle is just beginning. From this moment on, we're no longer just a crew. We're a family, bound by our shared mission and our unwavering determination to see it through. Are you all with me?" The crew's response was a resounding chorus of affirmation, their voices echoing through the Prometheus's cavernous halls. Jack and Lena exchanged a glance, their eyes reflecting the same fierce resolve that burned within the hearts of their fellow crew members. The time for action had arrived, and the Prometheus, the symbol of human defiance, was ready to take the fight to the alien overlords. The Prometheus cut a striking silhouette as it emerged from the colony's spaceport, its powerful engines propelling the refurbished warship into the void of space. On the bridge, the crew stood at their stations, their expressions a mix of excitement and trepidation. This was the moment they had been preparing for, the first salvo in their campaign to liberate the human colonies from the alien overlords' oppressive rule. Jack gripped the ship's controls, his knuckles whitening as he guided the Prometheus through the debris field surrounding the colony. Beside him, Lena's fingers danced across the navigation console, her brow furrowed in concentration as she plotted a course towards their target. "All right, everyone, listen up," Aisha's voice rang out, commanding the attention of the crew. The seasoned fighter pilot stood at the center of the bridge, her posture erect and her gaze unwavering. "We've spent months training for this moment, and the time has come to put our skills to the test." She turned to face the view screen, her expression hardening. "Our intelligence indicates that the alien garrison on Theta 7 is lightly defended, with only a handful of patrol ships and a small ground force protecting their main command center. This is our chance to strike a decisive blow against the enemy and show them that humanity will not go down without a fight." Hank, the grizzled engineer, stepped forward, his weathered features etched with a mixture of determination and concern. "The Prometheus is ready for action, Aisha, but we need to be careful. That garrison may be lightly defended, but you can bet the aliens have got some nasty surprises waiting for us." Aisha nodded, her gaze sweeping across the assembled crew. "That's why we'll be relying on Jack's piloting skills and Amara's technical expertise to give us the edge we need. This isn't going to be a walk in the park, but I know we're up to the challenge." Jack felt a familiar rush of adrenaline as Aisha's words sank in. This was his moment to prove himself, to show the galaxy that he was more than just a freighter pilot. With a determined nod, he turned his attention back to the controls, his fingers adjusting the Prometheus's course. "All right, team, let's do this," he said, his voice steady and confident. "Amara, I need you to reroute power to the forward cannons and shields. Hank, make sure the engines are running at optimum efficiency. Lena, keep those navigation systems tight. We're going to need to be nimble out there." The crew sprang into action, their movements fluid and coordinated as they carried out Jack's orders. Amara's fingers danced across the console, her brow furrowed in concentration as she diverted power to the ship's formidable armaments. Hank barked instructions to the engineering team, his gruff voice cutting through the noise of the engines. Lena's eyes narrowed as she scanned the sensor readouts, her lips pursed in a thin line. "We're approaching the coordinates, Jack. Alien patrol ships are on an intercept course. They've spotted us." Jack's grip on the controls tightened, his expression hardening. "All right, everyone, this is it. Aisha, take your squadron and engage the enemy fighters. Hank, I need those shields at full power. Amara, start targeting the garrison's command center. Let's show these aliens what the Prometheus can do." The bridge erupted in a flurry of activity as the crew carried out their orders, the ship shuddering as the first volley of enemy fire impacted against its reinforced hull. Aisha and her squadron of pilots peeled off, their fighters weaving through the alien patrol ships in a deadly dance of lasers and missiles. Jack's fingers flew across the controls, his eyes narrowed as he maneuvered the Prometheus into position. "Amara, target the command center's shield generator. Once it's down, hit them with everything we've got." "Copy that, Jack," Amara replied, her voice tense but focused. Her fingers danced across the console, and a moment later, the Prometheus's powerful cannons roared to life, sending a barrage of high-energy plasma bolts hurtling towards the alien garrison. The shields surrounding the command center flickered and collapsed under the relentless onslaught, and Amara wasted no time in unleashing a second, even more devastating salvo. The alien structure crumpled, its once imposing form reduced to a smoldering ruin. A cheer went up on the bridge, and Jack couldn't help but grin. "Nice shooting, Amara. Now let's finish off those patrol ships and get the hell out of here." Aisha's voice crackled over the comm system, her tone terse but triumphant. "You heard the man, team. Let's show these aliens what we're made of." The Prometheus's cannons roared to life once more, its firepower supplemented by the coordinated strikes of Aisha's squadron. One by one, the alien patrol ships were torn apart, their twisted hulks drifting lifelessly through the void. As the last of the enemy forces were dispatched, a deafening silence settled over the bridge. The crew stood in stunned silence, their eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and exhilaration. "We did it," Lena breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. "We actually did it." Jack reached out and squeezed her shoulder, his expression a mix of pride and relief. "Yeah, Lena, we did. And this is just the beginning." Aisha stepped forward, her gaze sweeping across the assembled crew. "Well, what are you all standing around for? We've got a war to win, people, Let's get this ship back to the colony and start planning our next move. The Prometheus's engines roared to life once more, the powerful warship turning towards home, its crew brimming with a newfound confidence and resolve. The first blow had been struck, and the humans were ready to take the fight to the alien overlords. The news of the Prometheus's devastating attack on the alien garrison spread through the colonial network like wildfire, igniting a renewed sense of hope and determination among the subjugated human populace. The brazen strike had caught the alien overlords off guard, shaking the foundations of their seemingly unassailable control over the sector. But the initial triumph was short-lived, for the aliens were not about to let such an affront to their power go unanswered. Within days, reports began to filter in of massive alien fleets mobilizing, their sights set firmly on the human colony that had dared to harbor the renegade warship. Jack and Lena stood on the Prometheus's bridge, their gazes fixed on the holographic display as it painted a grim picture of the impending threat. Hank, the grizzled engineer, let out a low whistle, his weathered features etched with a mixture of apprehension and resolve. "Looks like we've really stirred up a hornet's nest this time, folks," he rumbled, his calloused hands gripping the edge of the console. "Those alien bastards are coming at us with everything they've got." Aisha, the ace pilot, stepped forward, her eyes narrowing as she studied the tactical readouts. "We knew this was a risk, Hank, but we can't back down now. Not when we're so close to breaking their stranglehold on the colonies." Jack felt a familiar surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins, but this time it was tempered by a growing sense of unease. The alien forces massing against them were formidable, their numbers and firepower dwarfing the Prometheus's capabilities. "Aisha's right," he said, his voice steady despite the uncertainty that gnawed at the back of his mind. "We've come too far to turn back now. But we're going to need to be smart about this. We can't just charge in guns blazing and expect to come out on top." Lena nodded, her brow furrowed in concentration as she pored over the navigational data. Jack's got a point. If we're going to have any chance of surviving this, we need to use every advantage we can. Amara, what can you tell us about the alien fleet's capabilities? The young tech specialist stepped forward, her expression grave. "Well, the good news is that their ships are still using a lot of the same outdated technology we were able to exploit in our first attack. But the bad news is that they've clearly upgraded their defenses and brought in some serious firepower to counter the Prometheus." She paused, her fingers flying across the console as she pulled up detailed schematics. Their capital ships are equipped with powerful energy shields, and they've got a huge complement of fighter bombers to provide air support. Not to mention, they've got a few dreadnoughts in the mix. Those things are going to be tough to crack. The bridge fell silent as the crew absorbed the grim implications of Amara's assessment. Jack's mind raced, his thoughts a tangle of strategy and uncertainty. They had come this far, risked everything to seize their chance at freedom. Failure was not an option. "All right, people, listen up." Aisha's voice cut through the tension, her tone commanding and decisive. "We may be outnumbered and outgunned, but we got one thing the aliens don't: the will to fight for our homes and our families. We're going to need to use every trick in the book to even the odds, but I know we can do this. Are you with me?" The crew's response was a resounding chorus of affirmation, their voices mingling in a defiant roar that echoed through the Prometheus's halls. Jack felt a surge of pride and determination, his fingers tightening around the ship's controls. "Then let's get to work," he said, his gaze sweeping across the assembled team. "Hank, I need you and your engineers to push the Prometheus's engines to their limits. Amara, start cooking up some nasty surprises for those alien fighters. Lena, work with Aisha to plot us the best possible approach. We're going to need to be faster and more maneuverable than anything the aliens have." As the crew sprang into action, Jack felt a newfound sense of purpose and clarity. They may have been outmatched, but they were no longer the frightened, oppressed colonists that the aliens had so easily subjugated. They were soldiers, warriors, united in their determination to reclaim their freedom. "This is it, Lena," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The moment we've been waiting for. We're going to show those aliens that they can't keep us down, that the human spirit can't be broken." Lena nodded, her expression resolute. "I'm with you, Jack. All the way." The Prometheus's engines roared to life, the powerful warship surging forward to meet the encroaching alien fleet. Jack steeled himself for the battle to come, knowing that the fate of their entire civilization hung in the balance. But with his crew at his side, he was ready to face whatever the aliens had in store. This was their moment to shine, their chance to rewrite the course of human history. And they would not be denied. The Prometheus surged forward, its powerful engines propelling the refurbished warship towards the looming alien fleet. On the bridge, the crew stood at their stations, their expressions a mixture of grim determination and nervous anticipation. Jack gripped the ship's controls, his knuckles whitening as he guided the Prometheus through the chaotic battlefield. All around them, the void of space was alive with the thunderous exchange of weapons fire, as the alien capital ships and their fighter escorts bore down on the lone human vessel. "Shields holding at 85%, Amara reported, her voice tense but focused. "But we're taking a beating out here. Those dreadnoughts are pouring everything they've got into us." Aisha's fingers flew across the tactical display, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Jack, I need you to give me an opening. I'm going to lead the squadron in a strafing run on the nearest dreadnought. If we can take out its main guns, it'll buy us some much-needed breathing room." Jack nodded, his jaw set with determination. "Copy that, Aisha. Lena, feed me targeting data on those capital ships. I'm going to try and draw their fire away from the squadron." Lena's fingers danced across her console, her eyes narrowed as she scanned the sensor readouts. "Targets locked. You've got a clear run, Aisha. Just be careful out there." With a nod, Aisha turned to her pilots, her voice carrying a sense of urgency. "All right, team, you heard the man. Let's show these aliens what we're made of." The Prometheus's forward cannons roared to life, unleashing a barrage of high-energy plasma bolts that pummeled the alien dreadnought's shields. Jack's expert piloting allowed the ship to weave and dodge between the enemy's withering fire, drawing the bulk of their attention away from Aisha's squadron. The nimble fighter craft surged forward, their weapons blazing as they strafed the dreadnought's exposed hull. Amara's targeting systems guided the Prometheus's precision strikes, methodically chipping away at the massive vessel's defensive capabilities. "Their shields are down," Aisha's voice crackled over the comm. "Concentrate all firepower on their main guns. Let's take this thing out of the fight." The Prometheus's batteries unleashed a devastating volley, their powerful beams and projectiles converging on the dreadnought's vulnerable midsection. Explosions rocked the alien vessel, its once formidable form crumpling under the relentless assault. As the dreadnought's wreckage drifted listlessly through the void, a cheer went up on the Prometheus's bridge. But the moment of triumph was short-lived, as the remaining alien capital ships refocused their attention on the lone human warship. "We've got incoming, multiple enemy fighters and heavy cruisers on an intercept course." Lena's voice rang out, her fingers flying across the navigation console. "Jack, we need to get out of here now." Jack's brow furrowed in concentration as he pushed the Prometheus's engines to their limits, the powerful warship weaving and dodging through the hail of enemy fire. Amara's deft fingers juggled the ship's systems, rerouting power to the shields and diverting energy towards the weapon systems. "I'm giving it everything she's got, Jack," Amara shouted, her voice tinged with desperation. "But we can't keep this up much longer. We need a plan, and fast." Jack's mind raced, his thoughts a whirlwind of strategy and uncertainty. They had come so far, risked everything to reach this moment. Failure was not an option, but the odds seemed increasingly bleak. Suddenly, a spark of inspiration flashed in Jack's mind, and he turned to Lena, his expression resolute. "Lena, I need you to plot a course straight for the enemy formation. Amara, I want you to start charging up the Prometheus's main cannon. Put everything we got into it." Lena's eyes widened, but she nodded without hesitation, her fingers flying across the console. Calculating course. Done. Jack, are you sure about this? Positive, Jack replied, his grip tightening on the controls. Aisha, I need you and your squadron to hold off those fighters as long as you can. We're going to make a run straight at the capital ships. Aisha's voice crackled with a mix of confusion and concern. Jack, that's suicide. You'll never make it through their defenses. Just trust me, Aisha, Jack said, his voice calm and unwavering. Amara, how's that cannon coming? Fully charged and ready to fire, Jack, Amara responded, her expression a mix of apprehension and determination. But this is going to take everything we've got. We may not have enough power left for the engines after this. Jack nodded, his gaze sweeping across the assembled crew. Then let's make it count. Lena, take us in. Amara, fire on my mark. The Prometheus surged forward, its powerful engines propelling it straight towards the heart of the alien fleet. Laser bolts and missiles streaked through the void, converging on the lone human vessel. But Jack's expert piloting allowed the Prometheus to weave through the hail of fire, its shields flickering but holding firm. Mark, Jack shouted, and the Prometheus's main cannon erupted in a blinding flash of energy, its devastating beam carving a path through the alien capital ships. One by one, the massive vessels crumpled under the onslaught, their hulls rent and torn by the relentless assault. As the last of the alien fleet was reduced to a field of smoldering wreckage, the Prometheus coasted to a halt, its engines all but depleted. The crew stood in stunned silence, their expressions a mix of awe and disbelief. We did it, Lena breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack reached out and squeezed her shoulder, a weary smile spreading across his face. Yeah, Lena, we did. Now let's get this ship back home. We've got a war to win. The Prometheus's damaged but triumphant form turned towards the distant human colony, its crew brimming with a renewed sense of purpose and determination. The final showdown may have been won, but the battle for humanity's freedom had only just begun. As the Prometheus limped back towards the human colony, its hull scared and its systems running on borrowed time, a palpable sense of triumph and relief filled the air. The crew, battered but unbowed, stood on the bridge, their expressions a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. Jack gripped the ship's controls, his knuckles white from the strain. The final showdown with the alien fleet had taken a heavy toll, but they had emerged victorious, a feat that he and his crew could scarcely believe. Lena stepped up beside him, her eyes shining with pride. We really did it, Jack. We showed those aliens that they can't keep us down. Jack nodded, a weary smile spreading across his face. Yeah, Lena. And this is just the beginning. Once we get the Prometheus patched up, we're going to take the fight to the rest of the alien-controlled territories. The humans are going to rise up and take back what's rightfully ours. Aisha, the battle-hardened pilot, approached the pair, her expression somber. It's not going to be easy, you know. That fleet we just took on was only a small fraction of the aliens' total forces. We may have won this battle, but the war is far from over. Jack's expression darkened, but he nodded in understanding. I know, Aisha, but we got something the aliens don't, the will to fight for our freedom. As long as we stick together and use every advantage we can, I believe we can win this thing. Amara, the brilliant young tech specialist, joined the group, her fingers tapping anxiously against her datapad. Jack's right. With the modifications we've made to the Prometheus, we've got a real shot at taking the fight to the aliens. But we're going to need to be smart about it, strategize, gather allies, and hit them where it hurts the most. Hank, the grizzled engineer, let out a gruff chuckle, his weathered features creased in a grin. Well, you can count on me and my team to keep this old girl running. We may have taken a beating, but the Prometheus still's got plenty of fight left in her. The assembled crew shared a moment of camaraderie, their bond forged in the crucible of battle. As the Prometheus neared the colony, The news of their triumph had already spread like wildfire, igniting a renewed sense of hope and determination among the subjugated populace. When the ship finally docked, the crew was greeted by a roaring crowd of jubilant colonists, their cheers and applause echoing through the spaceport. Emily Winters, the colony's renowned engineer, stepped forward, her expression radiant with pride. "Citizens of our proud colony," she announced, her voice carrying across the throng. "Today we have witnessed a momentous victory, a triumph of the human spirit over the oppressive forces that have held us down for far too long." The crowd erupted into thunderous applause, and Emily raised her hands, silencing the din. "The crew of the Prometheus have risked everything to strike a blow against our alien overlords, and their courage and determination have inspired us all. But this is just the beginning." She turned towards the Prometheus, her gaze sweeping across the assembled crew. "With the Prometheus under our command, we now have the power to take the fight to the heart of the alien-controlled territories. No longer will we cower in the shadows. We will rise up and reclaim our rightful place in the galaxy." The crowd's cheers grew deafening, and Jack felt a surge of pride course through his veins. This was the moment they had been working towards, the culmination of their months of sacrifice and toil. As the celebrations continued, Emily approached the crew, her expression serious. "There is much work to be done, my friends. The Prometheus may have emerged victorious in this battle, but the alien forces are vast and relentless. We will need to gather allies, secure vital resources, and forge a comprehensive strategy if we are to have any hope of liberating the remaining human colonies." Jack nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. "We're ready, Emily. The Prometheus and her crew stand ready to lead the charge. Just say the word, and we'll take the fight to the aliens." Emily smiled, her eyes shining with a newfound determination. "Then let us begin. The future of our people rests on our shoulders, and I know that together we will not be denied." As the crew dispersed to begin preparations for the next phase of their campaign, Jack found himself drawn to the observation deck, his gaze fixed on the distant stars. Lena joined him, her expression contemplative. "It's still hard to believe, isn't it?" she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "We actually did it, Jack. We took on the alien fleet and came out on top." Jack nodded, his lips curving into a small smile. "Yeah, Lena. And this is just the beginning. Once we get the Prometheus back in fighting shape, we're going to show the rest of the galaxy that the human race won't be kept down." Lena reached out and squeezed his hand, her eyes shining with a mix of pride and trepidation. "I'm with you, Jack. All the way. Whatever lies ahead, we'll face it together." As the Prometheus's imposing form loomed in the distance, Jack knew that their journey had only just begun. The battle for humanity's freedom was far from over, but with the Prometheus and her crew at their side, he was confident that they could overcome any obstacle. A new era was dawning, and the human race was ready to reclaim its rightful place in the galaxy.